Alright, so today we'll talk about the built-in API forms. I know that gets thrown around a lot on Facebook, and if you're not aware of what that is, API is the capability to put forms on your website, and then you can have clients fill those out, and the information from that will go directly to your VacationCRM account. So we have created two built-in forms for agencies to use at no cost to you. With the option, if you want, you can still have custom forms built for your agency if you want something a little different than what we have to offer. So as long as you have the Pro version, you have access to these. To access them, you would just go to Settings, and then System Settings, and then System Settings one more time. And then you'll go down here and you'll see the link for the reservation form and the payment link. Now, if you are using these, you will definitely want to make sure to check this box. Allow API to merge profiles, because if you have a repeat client that will fill out that reservation form more than once, if you don't have this checked, it's going to create a new profile every single time they fill out that form, so you'll have a lot of duplicate profiles. If you do check this box, it will run a match, and if everything matches up, it will not create a new profile. It will just add the new data to their current profile. I would also recommend checking this box here, so it'll use the booking number as the invoice number, so you don't have two different numbers. There was a little confusion before we had this option where clients would try to fill out the payment form and they would use the invoice ID instead of the booking ID, and then the system wouldn't know where to match it. And here's the payment form, and here's the confirmation number, so that's what I'm talking about. That's why it says not the invoice number. So to get around that, you can just check this, and the invoice number will be the booking number, so everything matches up. Now you can customize the disclaimers for both forms right here. I wouldn't make them too long because it'll put a gap in between the different steps on the reservation form if this is really long. But you can actually, you can put whatever you want or change this a little bit to fit your agency a little better. So one thing that I went ahead and did ahead of time is I filled out the reservation form. So there's 5 different sections. The client will have to go through. If you have multiple agents, there will be a drop down here. If you're a single user, this won't even be here. So they'll fill out all the information, contact information, trip information. So they'll put the resort or cruise line, the room category, do they need airfare, do they need insurance, payment information, so their credit card info. They can also select, do they want to deposit only, do they want to pay in full. They can do an other amount and actually type in how much. We'll just say deposit only for this one. And then any additional information, so they can put in requests they want, and then their electronic signature. And this is that disclaimer that I showed you could edit yourself. So once they have all the information in, they'll just simply click submit, and they'll get a notification here that says it was successful, or for some reason if it wasn't, it'll let them know why. And then you will get a reminder, a notification on your reminders, and when they first come in they'll be orange, so you can differentiate that from your other reminders. So you can see the profile name is new client. So if I go to the actual trip for that, here's the details of it. So I know that they want to leave on June 4th. They want to go for 7 nights, Hard Rock Cancun, deluxe diamond room, and they do need airfare. They do want insurance, and then the special requests will come in the notes section also. Now what this also did was it created a profile for this client. So when you use these forms, you will never have to enter another client into your system manually again, unless you want to put them in prior to filling out the reservation form. So if you don't want to do that, you could also have a custom form built for, a request for more information from a client, where you could get, what they're looking for, name, address, stuff like that, without the trip information or the payment information. You're welcome to do that. But it takes everything from that form and enters it in their profile. So I've got their name, their date of birth, phone number, their address. It will even import their credit card information. So it's a huge time saver. And if there's multiple people on the form, like if they select, their whole family, it will also create profiles for the other people and put them in the family and friends section here. Any questions on that? Okay, Stacy asked, she missed where we pulled the form up. Okay, so you aren't able to find it in the system settings. Are you on the Pro version? Okay, you're on the light version. Yeah, the API capabilities are only available to the Pro version. Any other questions?
Stephen, I have one.
Yeah.
We've been, we're like a small host agency, and we've noticed that since the emails have started coming in when someone gets a form, we're getting a copy of it as well as our agent. Is that supposed to be happening, or?
I believe the way it's set up is if they don't select an agent, it will go to everyone. So that might be part of the issue.
Oh, so you think it's not coming just us, but all of our agents might be getting it?
I think it goes to the admin users by default.
Oh, okay, okay, all right. That makes
So
sense.
I always tell my clients, because at my agency, I go by Steven because there's already a Steve there. So
Mm-hmm,
when I'm working with a client, I always say, you will have to select my name from the drop down. It's under Steven, not Steve, because a lot of people that I personally know, I go by Steve normally.
mm-hmm,
I just went by Steven when I started with my agency just to avoid confusion. So, but I always make sure to tell them that, and even if there's not more than one name, I would always just tell your agents to talk to their clients and say, make sure to select my name from the drop down so that I actually get the information. Because if another agent gets it, they might just assume it was a mistake. Hopefully they would tell you, hey, I think this is yours, or send an email to all agents like, hey, I
mm-hmm,
got this reservation, but I don't think it's for me. Is anybody working with this client?
okay.
But, just make sure to tell a client, hey, I won't get any notification if you don't select me, so I won't even know to book your trip.
The other thing too, now insurances are required. They have to answer that now, yes or no. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
So we made two
Um,
changes to that. First, I think it selected yes by default. So if they skipped over it, it would say yes. So we
mhm.
changed that to where it didn't have anything selected. And then the next thing we did is we made it a required field so that the client has to select yes or no prior to submitting.
We sometimes have people that want to like just put a credit card on file and not complete the form each time, but there really isn't an option that says, like for this vacation package or for 1 year or anything like that. It has to be either a deposit an exact amount or paid in full. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, you could put $0 in there, but this form here is way overkill for just entering this section, because there's a
Yeah.
lot of other required stuff that it's not necessary for them to fill out. If it's a situation where a client already has a, a booking in the system, you could use this form.
Use the payment form.
I use this
Yeah.
form not very often. The only time I use this is if I have a client that's already has a trip in the system and they want to use a different credit card than what I already have on file.
Mhm.
So because what you need is you never want to send this out to a client that doesn't have a trip in the system, because this confirmation number is the primary thing the
Right.
system looks for to match it to the correct trip. And I've had agents try to send this out to clients that haven't even booked yet, and they're emailing me like, hey, I'm not seeing this payment, the client filled it out. because if it can't safely match it to the correct trip, it won't even submit it.
Maybe they could just put something like our client could write in the additional comments there, you know, on file, we'll notify you when we want to make a payment or something like that, so they don't have to keep filling it out.
Yeah, or I mean, why would you need their credit card if you're not going to run it? I'm just curious.
Well, they just like our old form said when they first filled it out, it said you could use the card for the current vacation package, you could use it for keep it on file for 1 year from the date, whatever. Then they would just like shoot us an email and say, pay $500 on my trip.
Okay.
You know, just random times. Now we're like making them each time they want to make a payment, because we want something in writing, you know, saying it was authorized. We're having them fill out this payment form every time they want to pay something, and we have a lot of people that pay on a payment plan.
Right,
A
yeah,
lot.
absolutely. I do
So
too.
before, our old form, we just had on there like, you know, you're authorized to use it for 1 year or for this current vacation, and then they would just shoot us an email and say, put 500 on my trip, and, you know, we had that, you know, documentation and went ahead and did it. So this way has me a little confused about whether we're, you know, I guess going by the rules or whatever to make sure that we have authorization each time, or
Right. One thing you also could do, and as an option, is you could have your own custom form created, because
that's what we're wondering.
these
We're
two
thinking
aren't
about
an
that.
exact fit for what you just described. I mean, you can make
Right.
either one work, but they're not an exact fit. So you may want to get another one created uh, just for that, like a payment credit card submission form or something like that, and you could give
Of
that
all
to the
your
clients.
users, how many people are using these standard forms, would you say, and how many people have gone the custom route?
I would say 90% of them are using the standard forms.
Are they? Okay.
The agencies that have custom forms are typically the agencies that had forms designed prior to these being built.
Okay.
So there have been a few that do very specific type of travel, or their business model's different than what's traditional, standard travel agent. And for them, yeah, it makes sense for them to make a new form, but almost these are generic enough, they'll work for almost any agency. So, and we did that by design. It's not great for everyone, but it works for everyone.
Well, I think part of the problem is just too because what we're used to, we're just thinking, you know, rethinking our methods or whatever.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely different than what a lot of agencies use, but like Beach Bum Vacation, they had their form. If you look at their reservation form, it looks different, but it's the exact same information that's what's in the standard form. Like
Mm-hmm.
everything is the same. But they have other ones like, like this is kind of just a more information, not necessarily they're going on it, they're not booking, but they want information on a trip, so they can put what they're interested in, any comments like, you know, I'd like to go here, but I'm open to other destinations. So this is kind of the step that you could do prior to the reservation form.
Now, is that interfacing with Vacation CRM, or you're just getting an email or something when they fill this out?
It can be either way. This one, I believe, is not going into Vacation CRM right now, because prior to having the option to allow API to merge profiles, they were getting a lot of duplicates, because a client would fill out this form first and then they'd fill out the reservation form, so that would be automatic 2 profiles per client. And
Yes.
when you multiply that times multiple agents, I mean, you would get hundreds of duplicates every couple of weeks to go through. So, but now that there's this merge option, there would be no problem doing it in 2 steps like that, 2 different forms.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, a couple other questions on the chat. Scott asked, what does pricing look like for custom forms? Honestly, I have no clue. Because you would hire someone like a web developer if you have someone that designs your website to build them. If you need a name or a contact for that, email Stephen, Stephen, at VacationCRM.com. I can give you the name of someone who's designed a lot of the forms. He did beach bums, and I think he did trip guys. And from there, his name just kind of got passed around. So he's very familiar with the system and what it requires to get the forms to work correctly with it. But he's certainly not the only one that can do it. But he's a good resource that, if you have any questions about custom forms, I can send that out. Gail asked, will we ever have the option to leave off some of the fields, such as, is this for a honeymoon registry and some of those fields? Typically no, because there's one form for every agency, so if we make a change to it, it changes it for every agency, so we want to leave it somewhat generic so it'll work for everyone. But again, there have been times where agencies have requested something and we've made a change based on that because it made sense for everyone, like the insurance things. So, if you have a suggestion, it doesn't hurt to ask. We'll review it and see if it makes sense for all agencies, but we don't want to make a change that's going to, hurt other agencies that are using the same form. Scott asked some more questions about the API. Scott, send me an email after this, and I can either give you a call or we can talk back and forth through emails, and I can go over more of the internal details on that. My email is Stephen, Stephen, at VacationCRM.com, and I'll just type that in the chat. Alright, so if you guys need my email, it's in the chat now, so you can copy that over and send me any emails with questions. Any other questions about what we've talked about so far? Okay, another thing we just added is the ability to get emails when someone submits one of the forms, and to set that up, you go into the settings and then manage users, and then just click edit next to your name, and you'll have to do this for all agents if there's multiple agents. And if you scroll down, you'll see API registration email notification and API payment email notification. You want to check those boxes, and then you can set it up like something like this, where it says, you have a new reservation, and then it'll say the agent name, the client first name, last name, phone number, whatever you want. The code is below here. You can use any of this code to enter into there. And this should all be in here by default and selected by default. When we did the release, we checked it for all agencies, so you wouldn't have to go in there and manually set it up. But if you want to change what it says a little bit, you're welcome to come in here and add stuff to that. But really, just getting an email that says there was a new, reservation form submitted is enough to let you know to go into your Vacation CRM and check that. Any other questions? Okay, well, if anyone has any questions down the road and you want to get this set up, I'll be happy to help you through it, but it's pretty straightforward as far as what you need to do. You just need to go into your settings, and the links are already there. The forms are already done. You just need to have someone embed them to your website. And I would recommend making a tab, much like the Beach Bum one, where it says, submit a payment or reservations. That way you can send your client a link, something like this, agencyname.com/reservation or agency.com/payment, because that looks a lot better than if you just copy and paste this and send this to an email, to a client. Obviously, clients have no idea who Vacation CRM is, and you're asking for their credit card information on that form. So it just looks better, and it's easier for you to remember if you set it up as, something like this. And Scott asked, with the existing forms, can we apply our own styling? Again, these are pre-made, ready to go out of the box forms, so you're kind of stuck with what you got here. Now you can edit the, where it shows up on the page. You can move it to the center, things like that, which is some HTML work there. But as far as how it looks, it's just kind of a real basic generic form. If you want something a little more customized, like I said, I can get you in touch with someone to create your own forms, or if you know what you're doing, I can give you the API documentation for everything to follow in order to get these forms to work correctly with Vacation CRM. Well, that's all I have for today, unless anyone has any additional questions. Okay, well, thank you everyone for your time, and have a great weekend.